Good morning. How you doing? It's a Thursday morning. It's the 19th of September. That's right, 2019. And here we are. Sorry about missing you on the radio show yesterday. Me being by myself, I missed an email from the company that streams the show, which is based in California, that they would be down for maintenance in the very early morning in California, which is in the afternoon. Oh, let me turn myself down. That's myself there. I didn't turn down the old monitor. That's turned down now. Yeah, a few seconds behind, obviously, bit of a delay. Yeah, so I just forgot all about it until I got a reminder email from them. So there you are. I had some good guests lined up yesterday. We'll get into them next week. Extremism was something I was going to get into in yesterday's programme with a reformed extremist. And it would have been very, very interesting indeed. But we'll get into that on the show next week. Anyway, are you in fine fettle? Yar? Do I care? I do care. I wouldn't ask if I didn't care. Quick roll call. Who knows 33? There you are. Morning all. California, ... shithole, says who knows 33. Hi to Matt about the guy, Mo Lester, 4 Jam Lines, Wendy Savage, it's sunny where Wendy is, to Martin Ellen, to Dick Scratcher. Yeah. Afraid of the Dark, Jessica, Yarlin Zay. We have Ian Robert Horton. How you doing, Ian? What's happening, Rich? What is the story with Boris? He has his heart in it. Give him some support. Hi to Jinx Jackson. Ian will talk again in a couple of in 4 weeks' time, 5 weeks' time. Hi to Jinx Jackson, Maureen McAleer, Nick Smithso, Lawrence, and Anonymous Matt is in Western Massachusetts. Good morning, mate. Good morning, Kevin Hansen in Australia. Vaccines. Just found out here in Australia that in our tetanus shots, they now have slipped in whooping cough. Have they slipped in whooping cough vaccine into the tetanus or the whooping cough virus? What have they done? Let me know. So tetanus, diphtheria, and whooping cough all in the one shot, right? So it's a vaccine against whooping cough. Very good. Paulina Tomchak, good morning in Canada, Toronto there. Hi to Chris, hi to Una Monroe, Trevor the Mule, Jennifer in Florida, Letra Blaze, lovely. Scotty Bolton, how you doing, Scotty? Thanks for supporting the programme, by the way. Hi to who, I've said that already, John Jones, have I done that? Matthew Hughes, good morning, Matthew. And thanks for supporting the programme, Matthew. I've had my PayPal open this morning. I don't open it very often, but I've noticed one or two donors. Thank you. Thanks to everybody who's ever donated to the programme, ever. I mean it. John and Sarah Stott, Black and White Boy, Threta Glumberg, John Kerr, Kinnell, that's Cocabell, Pro Rebel, Separatist, Mark Perry, Olan Pierce. Thanks, Matt, for the super chat donation. Paul Alawi, how you doing, Paul? Kundalini, how you doing, pal? Stuart Batty, Jason Williamson, Andrew Lothar, Charlie Silverman. Jean Ann is in lovely Cleggan, where it's lovely on the west. How you doing, Jean Ann? Crypto Fudge, Gail in Cornwall, PB Awake, Liz McFall, how you doing, Liz? Dan Des, English Heart is in North Wales, and I'm leaving the chat there for a minute. Hi to Pierre, there you are. Good stuff, right? Justin Trudeau hasn't made many of the newspapers this morning. He's made one, has he? Well, did one newspaper pick it up? But it's all over the television and radio programmes. He's the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. Bit of an arse. And they're all. Is there anybody you do like, Richie? No. Not in politics, anyway. Of course not in politics. There isn't anybody I support. He has apologised because some years ago he went to a party and it was Arabian Night themed and he browned himself up. We might come back to that in a minute. In fact, we will. Come back to it in a minute. We might. We will. Beat Jesus. Okay. The Express newspaper. EU demands show Brexit plan in 12 days or it's over. It's done. This is nonsense. This is brinkmanship. It's alleged that the European Union has told Boris Johnson that come up with a Brexit plan, a withdrawal plan that differs to Theresa May's, but one that still preserves peace and no hard border in Northern Ireland, and we'll look at it. If you don't have one in 12 days, it's all over. This is nonsense. The European Union does not want the United Kingdom to depart without any deal, of course. And they're still at the Supreme Court today for the third day and the final day, arguing over whether Johnson had the legal legitimacy to prorogue. It's going on today. John Major is going to make an appearance there today. John that was destroyed by Spitting Image. Do you remember the grey puppet? John will be arguing for Remainers today. Okay, The Telegraph. Rees-Mogg urges Farage supporters to return to the Tory fold. Jacob Rees-Mogg, terminological inexactitude darling, did a podcast. He did a Brexit live show, which is podcasted, audience there. And in it he professed profound admiration for Mr. Farage, but said that Tory supporters should come back to us because, well, we'll give you what Farage is promising you. Also, John Humphrey there presents his last Today show for BBC Radio 4 today. Some of the newspapers asking today, who's going to hold the politicians to account now that the Rottweiler is gone, the Welsh Rottweiler, John Humphrey. He never really held politicians to account. He's been a bit smarmy and a bit sarcastic and a bit interrupty in his career. But he's never held anyone to account, really. All right. Who or what is on the front page of the Metro? Just sort out ONHS, mate. Johnson, visiting a hospital yesterday, I don't even know where he was accosted by a man whose daughter is in hospital. He's a Labour supporter, apparently, and he had a go. He had a proper pop at Boris Johnson and the Conservative Party's legacy around the National Health Service. That's on the Metro. I love when these Egypts get cornered by irate members of the public, but you have to wonder sometimes, how genuine is it? You know? Here's The Guardian. Saudis to Trump, here's our proof. Now world must respond to Iran. The Saudis gathered up a few fragments of metal and said, this is a drone, a missile that's attached to a certain type of drone, and it must be the Iranians. The world is apparently supposed to breathe a bit easier today. Why so? Because Trump has ordered his Treasury Secretary to levy more sanctions on Iran in a move that we're supposed to applaud and be happy about, because he's not advocating, or he hasn't asked for any military response. I could spend all day talking about what sanctions do to countries. Anyway, that's The Guardian. And Greta Thunberg is on the front page of The Guardian as well. They love Greta in The Guardian. Won't be long before she has her own column there. The Guardian also goes with Johnson facing new deadline on Brexit. That's The Guardian. The Financial Times. Fed rate cut follows second bid to ease overnight lending squeeze. US economy there. Sandwich makers take action to avoid Brexit hitting their bread and butter. There's a number of stories in the papers today and yesterday. Yesterday it was car manufacturers. Yesterday it was car retailers claiming that they're screwed. Brexit is going to kill us. Brexit is that little bug that flips onto its back accidentally and can't right itself. It's dead. It'll eventually just die. It's gone. I've told you this already. That's the Financial Times. The Times of London. Bibi Netanyahu pictured. Stalemate in Israel after the election. Netanyahu wants to form a coalition government. So does his opponent Benny Gantz. Doesn't matter which of them does. It doesn't matter a damn to the righteous indigenous Palestinian people. They're all psychotic child murderers. They are. It's not just my opinion. Confession killer, 4 more victims. Meh. I'm never getting out. I might as well fess up. Is the story in the Mirror, on the Mirror front page. There's stuff on there as well about the jungle. Are we close again to that crap reality TV show about the jungle? Are we? Is this the time of year they do that? Is it? What's on the front page of the Sun? Loch Ness Monster. There's a gigantic eel in Loch Ness. And it's been claimed that the eel might be that which is being mistaken for the prehistoric monster. I don't know how long eels live, but they've been claiming a Loch Ness Monster for decades, maybe. A century, maybe. So I don't know if it's the eel. I don't know. That's on the front page of the Sun. And the Star leads with snowflakery. This is not a new story. This is not new. Snowflakes ban birds and biddies. Crybabies upset by dictionary definitions. This is in The Guardian 3 days ago. Thousands demand Oxford dictionaries eliminate sexist definitions. All these words that have been used, slang terms for women over the years. Wench, bint, biddy. 30,000 people signed a petition saying that the Oxford Dictionary should remove these words. This is patently ridiculous, of course. These words are historical, even if they are annoying. They have historical significance. Yeah, they also want to put more words in their place, of course. So when you take out all the slang terms for women, wench, biddy, bint, bitch, whatever. I've never referred to any woman as a bitch. Bint, I've used bint before, cloth-eared bint, and I got that from Faulty Towers. Bitch, certainly not. Biddy is a word that would have been used in Ireland a lot. She's an old biddy, meaning that she's an old busybody of sorts, a pain in the arse. Leave the words in, but they want to replace them with more words for trans people. Yes! It might become easier pretty soon to join them when it dawns on us that we can't beat them. Just join them. Yes, more trans words. We have 100 genders now, don't we? According to the BBC. So, yeah, get rid of all the derogatory terms for women and you're left with a lot of gaps. Therefore, you can virtue signal to the moon. Snowflakes, ban birds and biddies. That's the Star. How you doing? Right, this is crap. This is not the Richie Allen radio show, which will return at 5 o'clock today. I'm not sure who's going to be on it. It might just be me and you. It might just be me by myself. I'll figure it out. I might have a guest or two. We'll see how it goes. But we're back streaming, which is good. I'm not streaming now, am I? No, I'm not. But I will be shortly. Right. I'm a bit chilly in this room this morning. It's a lovely warm place this, but I'm a bit chilly. Big window there, you think would radiate in a bit of the sun's rays, but it hasn't done that. Yeah. Gail says trans bint. Yes, trans bint. What's a trans bint? Well, a trans bint is a trans woman who's a bit of an arse. Right, so Trudeau then, shall we have a giggle? This annoys me, this. And I know there are black people watching. I know. And I know we wonder about you, Richie. We wonder. You don't often stick up for us. I do. I stick up for everybody. I just don't like silliness. So Trudeau then, Ike used to say to me, that, as in David Icke. No, I'm referred to him by his surname. Ike, David Icke. It's not any disrespectful thing to do. Refer to him by his surname. He used to always say to me, Canada is about one of the most controlled countries in the world. And it's often seen by its neighbours in the US as some utopian free society. When it isn't. It's very controlled. He's often said to me, and I think he's right to say that. So Trudeau then, let's bring up the BBC story, will we? Is it there? Or is it just in the Telegraph? Is it just in Telegraph? Give over. Right, there you are. Canada PM in brownface 2001 yearbook photograph. He wore a brown face at a private school gala nearly 2 decades ago. And this photo was obtained by Time magazine. He addressed the image. He stood in front of the image and he went... Trudeau said he deeply regretted his actions and he should have known better. Channeling his inner Jim Diamond. I should have known better. Is this a thing? Is this serious? Is this something that needs to be addressed? Does it? Is this very wrong? Is it racist? According to the media, it is the media. The media. Skin darkening makeup on his face and hands at the West Point Grey Academy in Vancouver. West Point Grey Academy. Right. Yes, I did make a masturbation gesture at the camera. Yes, you did see that. So that's true, though. I don't need to show you any more of that, do I? Do I? Maybe there's more of it. He spoke to journalists. Do you want to hear him? Do you want to hear him? See him? Do you want to see him? Let's get all this out of the way. I'm using this lovely basic system here. And I'm going to end up now putting myself out of shot, I think, to do this properly. Or do I even need to do that? Here's Trudeau on a plane. All right? Have a listen.
In 2001, when I was a teacher out in Vancouver, I attended an end-of-year gala where the theme was Arabian Nights. And I dressed up in an Aladdin costume and put makeup on. I shouldn't have done that. I should have known better, but I didn't. And I'm really sorry.
How do you feel about this coming out right now in the campaign?
Obviously, I regret that I did it. It's not about timing. It's about having done something that I shouldn't have done, and I'm really sorry I did. I found out today that it was going to break tonight.
Is that the only time in your life you've ever done something like that?
When I was in high school, I dressed up at a talent show.
Deo.
With makeup on.
Many in the United States, when they've been discovered with these sorts of things, they are asked to resign. Have you given thought to resigning?
I take responsibility for my decision to do that. I shouldn't have done it. I should have known better. It was something that I didn't think was racist at the time, but now I recognize
it was racist. It was a racist thing to do. But I'm not going to resign. It was racist. Is it racist? This is the thing, isn't it? It winds a lot of people up, this. It really does. I'm going to show you a little video taken at an airport around a comic convention a couple of years ago. And there's a white person dressed up as Whoopi Goldberg, a fan of Whoopi Goldberg, presumably, and is accosted at an airport by a black person who's really cheesed off at encountering this blackface person. So, we live in a mad world. Have a look at this.
See her wearing blackface. Do you see her wearing blackface? That is not a black woman. She has painted her face black. That is not okay.
They allow that?
It is not okay, girl. You should go wash your hair. Just do it. Just wash your face, and then you'll be okay. Your hair is long.
What do you think about this?
Very real. You don't need to have the face painted black.
I think that woman shouldn't be wearing blackface.
Nobody should wear blackface. It's not okay. It's never okay. It was not okay 100 years ago.
My culture is not a costume.
My culture, not a costume.
Do you consider that cultural appropriation, would you say?
I absolutely
that's an
consider
insult.
That's fucking theft.
So it's even
That's
worse.
theft.
That is an insult.
That's like so terrible for Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh,
like,
that's
what she's supposed to be, Whoopi Goldberg. She's like, I respect Whoopi, so I'm gonna paint my face like Whoopi.
Right.
You guys okay?
We're all right.
No, I was
There's
just
a
asking
black
a
lady
question.
with, or there's a white lady dressed up with blackface.
That's kind of.
That's a bit mad, right? So, apparently, I mean, we all know about the minstrels and we all know about the history of people blacking up in the past and doing so to deliberately demean or insult or maybe even dehumanize black men and women. We're talking a long, long time ago. We know that to be true, right? But is that relevant today? I remember a couple of years ago, there was a guy going to a fancy dress party. He was on the tube. And I think he was dressed as Samuel L. Jackson's character from Pulp Fiction. And he had put makeup on his face because without it, I suppose, how would you know that he was playing a black character? The character Jules from Pulp Fiction. In Trudeau's defence, Trudeau went to an Arabian Nights themed gig or whatever, and decided he was going to put dark makeup on his face to make him look more dark-skinned. If I was to decide tomorrow that I was going to go to a party dressed as Ray Charles. Now, I say Ray Charles because his music is often on in the house. Caroline, as a brilliant musician herself, a saxophonist, a pianist and a clarinet player, the very gifted future Mrs. Allen, is a massive fan of Ray Charles, and I like him as well. If I was to go and see Ray Charles somewhere, if I was to go and play him in a fancy dress party or portray myself as him, how would I do that? I'd need to darken my skin tone, wouldn't I? How is it racist? It isn't racist, really, is it? And a number of people have jumped out this morning, including the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, who's actually defended Trudeau and said, look, it was racist, but look at his track record since then. But I'm going to argue that it isn't racist. And I don't care what anybody says. Well, obviously I don't care what anybody says. I couldn't give a damn what anybody says or thinks about me. But if I wanted to play Michael Jordan, somebody whom I got an enormous amount of pleasure watching in the early 90s when I discovered basketball. I was never any good at it, but I liked watching it in the NBA and those battles with the Utah Jazz and those finals and the Orlando Magic and Shaquille O'Neal. How do you go about it? Well, you just get the jersey with the number 23 on it. You look a bit fucking stupid, don't you? So I'm going to argue that this is insane. And where this leads ultimately is down a very sinister, a very, very bad road. It can't possibly be racist for me to attend a fancy dress party as a historical black figure, as Whoopi Goldberg, as the person in the video was doing. I mean, that's hysterical, it's crazy, it's disturbing, it's aggressive, it's brainwashed. I think that woman to be screaming that it's not fair to Whoopi Goldberg, it's crazy stuff. And it's all over the media today. And whatever you think of Trudeau, and yeah, Trudeau is, you know, he is as much as anybody else an elite puppet, a puppet of banksters. Of course he is. To say that because he went to a party and put dark makeup on his face that he is racist is profoundly ignorant. It's stupid and it's dangerous. But this is where we are in 2019, and it doesn't get any better. That's Trudeau there. And you heard the airport meltdown as well. So that's all over the papers. What else have we got for you this morning? A few things of interest as well. David Cameron is in a lot of the newspapers today. The former Prime Minister. He's been accused of deliberately timing the release of his memoirs to make life very difficult for Boris Johnson and Michael Gove, Brexiteers in chief, allegedly, as Johnson tries to get the UK out of the European Union, allegedly, as the court case, the Supreme Court is hearing the arguments for and against whether Johnson had the legal right to prorogue Parliament. Cameron is getting it in the neck from some quarters, but the media is being very forgiving and very kind to David Cameron this particular week, interestingly enough. And the Times runs with this: I could be friends again with Gove, says Cameron. There's David Cameron and Michael Gove. Michael Gove's wife, we mentioned this yesterday, Sarah Vine, writes for the Daily Mail. She's a columnist. She wrote this heart-wrenching article about how devastating it has been since the families broke up over Brexit. Cameron has been talking about this to LBC. I can play you some of that if you want to hear it. I don't know if you want to hear it, but I can play you some of it anyway. Go on, we'll hear a little bit of it. This is Cameron speaking to Nick Ferrari on LBC yesterday about this.
Unfortunately, you'll be aware that Michael Gove's wife, Sarah Vine, writes today she doesn't see the two families will ever really repair this schism. Do you agree?
I read her article, actually, last night. I was coming back from my book launch with Samantha, and it popped up on my screen, and we both read it, and both actually thought it was incredibly sensitive and well-written and rather emotional piece. Look, over time, I hope that a lot of water's flowed under the bridge, but it just was very difficult at the time of the referendum.
Will the families ever come? Because you were very, very close.
Yeah,
I've seen pictures
we were
of
very
you.
close, and the children were friends and all the rest of it. I mean, who knows? A lot of water's flowed under the bridge, as I say.
You'd like to rekindle the friendship.
Well, I want to try. I think the difficulty's just been that, Michael was a very, very close member of the team. He was, so central to my thinking on education reform and other things, and so watching what happened next was very painful. And I did, in some ways, thought he'd become, quite a different person in all of it. But as I say, life moves on.
Former Prime Minister David Cameron there. That's all over the press as well. He's also in the Mail, Cameron, because in that interview, he assured the LBC presenter Nick Ferrari, "I did not have sex with a dead pig." That's hilarious. I don't find it offensive. I find it hilarious, says David Cameron. He's talking about the book written about him and the Conservative Party and Johnson and the Bullingdons and all the rest of it by Lord Ashcroft. And the story has been substantiated by many a man who knew David Cameron and who went to school with him. He did insert his appendage into the mouth of a dead pig. And his best friend, his former Chancellor, George Osborne, now at the Evening Standard, was very fond of putting squabs. Do you know what a squab is? Look it up. Putting live squabs into the rectums of his friends until the birds expired, until they died. This is what they do, these animals. These fucking disgusting pigs. This is what they do. So he tried to laugh off that story, but he can laugh it off all he wants. The story is true, and it's been substantiated by many people. These people are sick. And we spoke on the radio show of late about how these people are identified. At public school, which is a misnomer really, because public school is not a public school. A public school is a fee-paying school. They go from public schools to elite private boarding schools. They are dehumanized, they are bullied, and they are watched very carefully. Honestly. They are earmarked and selected by hidden people, by shadow people, on behalf of other shadow people. They are targeted, zeroed in on. These are the guys we want. Get them into the various political parties and we'll groom them, and from there we'll work them up, and we'll see through a period of 15, 20, 25 years, we'll see where they go. This is how it works. That's in the Mail today. Spoke at length about this on the radio show over the years. This is interesting. You might have seen this overnight, you might not have seen it overnight. You might not have seen it overnight. It's in the Telegraph, isn't it? No, it isn't. It's on Sky's website, skynews.com. Yes, it's about Sandy Hook. Excuse me. Sandy Hook parents release harrowing school shooting advert. What is it about? Well, families of children killed in the Sandy Hook mass shooting have released a chilling video showing pupils using back-to-school essentials to save them from a gunman. At first, the public service announcement called Back to School Essentials looks like a typical clip of students gathering everyday school items such as backpacks and folders as they return to school after the summer holidays. But it's a bit more than that, according to Sky. Smiling children show off their new purchases, but it quickly becomes clear they are showing how everyday items can be used to escape from a school shooter. This is fucking horrendous, this. I really don't know how to articulate how I feel about this. We talk about a program, an agenda to traumatize children. This is insane. It's a video I'm going to show you the video. It's been made by Sandy Hook Promise, a non-profit organisation led by family members of children who died at the elementary school back in 2012. I'm going to show you the video now. You talk about trauma. You talk about destroying any semblance of what we would have understood to have been a childhood. Childhoods. and the experience of childhood and the experience of schooling. I know this is more so in America than here, but we're doing it our own way. But the experience of schooling, unrecognisable today compared to what it used to be. So have a look at this video. It's about 1 minute and 6 seconds long. If I've got it, have I got it? I have. Listen, watch and listen carefully and let me know what you think of it, more important.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Yeah, it is astonishing. Jean Ann has been on the chat there to say, I saw that ad on television overnight. Absolutely astonishing. A child terrifying, horrible idea. Why the feck was it allowed? We know the truth, as Sandy Hook says, Jean Ann. It's dreadful. You go back to, even you think back to my tirade against Sky News and meningitis the other day. However widely available guns are in the United States, I think, and I know this to be true, as a child going through elementary school or high school in the United States, you're still more likely to be killed in a plane crash than you are to be killed in a school shooting. Meaning, you know, the chances are you're never going to come anywhere near one. So that is traumatic, that. And children are so impressionable. We all remember being terrified by things as children that amounted to nothing in the end, that didn't amount to a hill of beans, things that we were concerned about. That video will be shown to children, presumably in schools across the country in America, and it will have a profoundly negative effect on them. It's dreadful. It really is. I can't make an argument for it. I like to play the devil's advocate. You know, I like to try and be moderate in terms of, right, don't just jump in with 2 feet, Richie, have a think about it. That is fairly disgusting, that. What are you going to do? It's made the news here today. Sky News covering that. Not much condemnation of it as far as I can see on Sky News today. Not by the presenters, who of course have to maintain a modicum of objectivity, as if they do, but even by some of the commentators. It's got mentioned, but nobody says anything about it. It's just a case of, well, you know, it's crazy over there, isn't it? You have to understand it. No, you don't have to understand it. You don't have to understand it. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Mobile phone users, those of you who carry your mobile phone with you everywhere and find yourself unable to live without it, I don't do this for a laugh. This is serious. When it's getting to this, I mean, we know that people using phones are getting knocked down by cars. That's true, right? Walking along the street like that, right? That's how it is, right? And getting knocked down. And if they're lucky, they're getting hit by a guy on a bike in a cycle lane, but often they're getting knocked down. Or they're walking into things. Or as we learned recently, they're walking into blind people. Now they're so unable to live without their phones that they're leaving a charging phone on the edge of the bath. And I bet you a lot of people will be doing that. Fucktard, right? A Russian accountant, incapable of having a bath without having a mobile phone anywhere near you, and is killed. Cautionary tale there. This is insane.